Welcome to Your Yes Filled Life. I'm Brenda Winkle, energetic leadership guide, psychic medium, and somatic coach for ambitious leaders who know their gifts are real and who want to stand fully in them. Here, you'll learn how to trust your intuition, embody your vision, and step into the freedom you've been craving, all without chasing more certifications or carrying stuff that does not belong to you. Every week, I'll share powerful practices and conversations with thought leaders and changemakers that help you transform your vision into embodied confidence, claim your gifts without apology, and lead with both clarity and freedom. Because your gifts aren't cute, they're powerful, they're real, and they're needed. Start today by downloading my free energy audit at brendawinkle.com/audit. It's the exact tool I use to track what's fueling me and what's draining me. It will help you discern between that hit of achievement and true joy so that you can lead with more clarity and impact. This is your space to stop proving, start embodying, and live fully in your gifts. Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. Hello, and welcome to Your Yes Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. Today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about how you can shift identity. Over the last couple of episodes, we've talked about the role identity plays in how we can show up, in how we can create change in our life, and how we can step into the things that we really want. But now let's talk about how can we actually shift the identity. And there's not one way that we can shift identity. There are a number of ways that we can shift identity. And we're going to be talking about 4 different ways that you can step into a new identity. And these are 4 different tools that you can use. Some of these tools are things that you'll be able to do on your own. And so after you listen to this episode, you're going to have actionable items, actionable strategies that will actually shift the identity that'll make it easier for you to step into the new version. And I'm also going to talk about some things that you might need support on. And the reason that you might need support on is it can be difficult to see the label from inside the jar. Or another way to say this is it's difficult to see the picture if you're the one standing in the frame. So let's dive into those first. There are many reasons why we stay in a certain identity. There's a payoff, right? The payoff might be that we're getting something out of a specific identity and it's a positive payoff. Like, for example, when I was a teacher, there was definitely a positive payoff being, known as a member of the community, known as somebody dependable. There were lots of discounts at different places for teachers. It was easy to get approved for things because teachers are known to be responsible, respectful, kind of upstanding pillars of the community kind of thing. And so that's a definite benefit that went along with it. And there are positive things that are keeping you in your chosen identity. And I think sometimes we forget that there are positive reasons why we're staying in a specific identity, whatever that identity is. But then there's also the secondary gain. And the secondary gain is worth looking at because it's the sneaky ways that you might be benefiting from staying where you are that are serving you, but not in the direction you want to go. So sometimes people call this self-sabotage, and that's a fine way to look at it. I think it's more interesting to think about what are we consciously choosing to get out of or avoid in a specific situation in terms of secondary gain, because there is some element of that. You're either benefiting from staying exactly where you are in some way, you're gaining the ability to avoid something or to not have to claim something or something else. So let me give you an example from my own life. As I was making the move from being a full-time educator into what I do now, one of the secondary gain items for me was If I was still teaching, I could say to myself, well, of course, I'm not going to talk about my business on every social media post because I'm still a teacher. So it makes sense that I wouldn't post about it all the time. That was a secondary gain. Was it supporting my goal? No. Was I getting something out of it? Yes, indeed. So secondary gain is sneaky and it's probably something you know on some level. So invitation to just get curious about your own identity and ask yourself, maybe even journal on the following question. What am I getting out of staying where I am? What do I get to avoid by staying where I am? And when you get those answers, you're going to have a lot of information about number one, do you actually want the identity that you're saying you want? And if you do, then move on to number two, which is what are you willing to shift in order to get that identity? Because there will need to be a shift. Doesn't mean that you'll have to blow up your life, but there will need to be a shift. And now this is the part where we're going to talk about how some of those things can happen. So one of the most obvious ways that you can step into a new identity is to begin to modify your physical appearance and your clothing in a way that fits the new identity. So let me give you a really simple example from my own life. When I was a piano teacher and I was putting myself through college as an accompanist, accompanying choirs and solos and ensembles, it was essential for me to have very short nails. And I wanted to have polished nails. I love having my nails done. Well, I love doing my nails. I don't love having them done. There's a really important distinction there. Another story. But part of my identity was I was a pianist and I needed to have really short fingernails. So when I began to shift into the role of a choir director, I decided I really wanted to have a little bit longer nails. But there was a conflict there because the roles that I stepped into as a brand new choir director also required me to play piano with my choirs. And so I wasn't able to grow my nails very long because I was still playing piano all the time. And so I don't know if that's a very good example, but that is definitely an example that I really wrestled with. Like, how can I have beautiful long nails and be a piano player? Oh, well, I can't. I can't do both of those things at the same time because they're competing. You can't play a piano well with really long fingernails because the positioning of your hands is incorrect and you'll actually create muscle pain for yourself and inaccuracies in your playing. So when we think about identity and moving into a physical representation of your identity, another example would be when I graduated from college, I needed to dress professionally. Back in those times, like in the 1990s, which feels like yesterday, and also I recognize is long time ago, like, oh my gosh, really long time ago, 30 years ago. Gosh, I graduated from college 30 years ago. That number seems impossibly big. At any rate, At any rate, when I graduated from college as a new teacher, I needed to dress professionally, and that meant that I needed to wear dress pants or skirts with nylons or dresses or something with blazer, whether it was a pantsuit or a skirt suit, didn't matter. But I needed to dress professionally, and that meant dressing up. And so one of the big ways that I stepped into my brand new identity as a teacher from a college student was that I would change my identity based on my wardrobe. So my wardrobe began to shift. The same thing happened in reverse when I left teaching. So although the times had changed and it became more common, in fact, it was the norm for people to wear jeans or khakis or some kind of lounge pant, even at work as a teacher, there was still a no jeans law or rule, I should say, in the school that I was teaching at, except on Fridays. And if you wanted to wear jeans on Fridays, you had to pay $1 to do it. And so when I was making the transition from being a full-time teacher, full-time educator, into being an entrepreneur, one of the shifts that I made to help myself step into that identity was I stopped wearing dress clothes. So then I still would have something put together and polished looking on top. Like I would wear nice sweaters or nice blouses or cute tops, but I often would wear jeans. And by often, I mean always, unless I was in sweats. And that was how I made that identity shift. So when you think about making your identity shift from where you are to where you want to be, clothing has a huge impact because as you put this thing on your body, you're stepping into a different identity. And every time you look in the mirror or pass a reflective surface, you're seeing yourself in that identity. So looking at what you wear is a really simple way to reinforce an identity that you want. So if you're a medical professional, maybe you want to wear the white coat. I don't know if you wear a white coat or not, but my guess would be that you move differently depending on if you have a white coat on or if you're just in scrubs. My guess would be it just feels different in your body because I know for me, it feels very different in my body and I carry myself differently and I present myself differently if I'm in dress slacks or if I'm in jeans, or if I'm in a dress ready to go dancing. All of those things make me feel differently about myself, and I present myself differently. That's identity. So when you get really comfortable, you can allow your identity to be a little bit fluid. And what I mean by that is, I can dress up in a beautiful pleated red dress on Friday night to go dancing, just like I did last Friday night. And then Saturday, I can wear my Eddie Bauer cargo pants and some layering pieces, fleece layering pieces, and um, a Columbia vest and a hat on Saturday and feel equally comfortable because my identity now is set as I'm Brenda and I allow myself to be all the things that I am, the multi-passionate. I can be the musician, the choir director, the healer, the coach, the podcaster, the speaker, the author. All of those things feel integrated in my body. And so I can fluidly move through the identities, but it didn't used to be that way. And that's where I want to really bring us in today. So, as I was making the move into the work that I do now, I had a very difficult time calling myself a coach. I did not like the way that the coaching industry is not regulated. And I didn't like the way people could just like decide they were a coach, especially after getting the education that I had gotten. I mean, I took school very seriously. I got a master's degree, a bachelor's degree. I had 60 hours beyond my master's at least, probably more. I mean, I really value education. I value certifications. I value training. And so for me, just to randomly put the word coach after my name felt almost like a lie. I felt like an imposter. And when I finally was able to do that, it was because I obtained a certification. I am a trauma-informed, certified somatic coach. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I can put the word coach after my name and feel pretty good about it. But up until that time, I literally could not do it because it just didn't fit my identity. Not in any way that was throwing shade in any direction other than just in my own body, in my own system. So then, as I was preparing for this episode and I was thinking about identity, I started to think about why I had a difficult time putting the word coach after my name or before my name. And what I realized is people in the coaching industry had made it seem like I wasn't a real, quote unquote, coach. I'm going to say that again. People in the coaching industry had said I wasn't a real coach. Keep in mind that by the time I was actually a certified coach, I had been an educator for decades. I had been paid by school districts all over the United States to coach and educate and mentor students. And the work that I was doing was actually coaching, but because the coaching industry told me I wasn't a coach, I believed them. And the reason I'm mentioning this is one of the identity shifts that we have an opportunity to make is whether we're going to believe the people around us. And I see this so often with my clients. I was having a conversation with someone recently who is a very talented coach and surgeon and physician mentor. She's very talented. She's very good at what she does. She's well respected. She speaks nationally. She's a leader in her field. And she made a comment during one of our sessions. And if you're listening right now, I'm just saying this with so much love. She made a comment that if the day came that she would ever actually coach somebody, and then she was filling in the blank with whatever we were talking about. And that stuck with me, if I ever actually coach somebody. And what I realized, and I probably said this at the time, what I realized is there's a disconnect between the work that she's doing as an expert in her field as a surgeon with literally coaching her patients before and after surgery. Even in the process of working into, do we need a surgery? There's coaching involved. But when it came to her business, to call herself a coach felt kind of different. It felt impostery. It felt like she was pretending. And this is somebody who has gone to medical school, gone to a specialization within, like after medical school, went on to another specialization, and also obtained certifications in coaching. And there's something about the way that we have to claim it first before other people can see it that feels like it should be the opposite. It feels like there should be somebody around saying, you are a coach. And it feels like, at least to me and to this client on that day we had this conversation, it feels like there should be some kind of thing that happens where it's like, ta-da, now you are a coach and you are coaching in your business. And we should also recognize the coaching work that we do within institutions and organizations as coaching. For example, in this physician's case, she's literally coaching her patients on deciding whether or not they need a medical procedure. And then she's coaching them through it, coaching them not only in the physical realm of what is actually going to happen in the surgeries, but she's coaching them emotionally and she's answering questions and she's asking them what else they're worried about and she's doing all of this type of thing. And it's just so fascinating to me that we don't give ourselves credit for the work we're actually doing because she's actually a coach right now. Right now, she's coaching. But because it's not coming through her business, she's not giving herself credit for it, which is really something we need to consider and talk about. The work that we do might be within our businesses. It might be. And then maybe that's what our businesses are built around. And the work we do might be through an organization or an institution, and it is still valuable. So I took on this role in July of 2025 as the Pacific Youth Choir's Associate Director, teaching their younger choirs. I teach two choirs, K through 2 and 3 through 5. I'm talking grades, kindergarten through second grade, third grade through fifth grade. And there, there was initially some resistance to activating that as an additional source of income because I was telling myself that if I didn't get 100% of my income from my coaching business, that I was a fraud, that I was an imposter. And then I realized something which I want to share with you, which is this. And you probably already know this. Very wealthy people have multiple streams of income, whether it's investments or retirement accounts or royalties that are coming in from something that you've done or consulting, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's real estate investments. Very wealthy people have multiple streams of income. In the coaching and healing world, there is somehow a message that gets so twisted that you're only a legitimate coach or healer if you're receiving 100% of your income from your healing or coaching business and or work. And I think that's just not true. And I think that we are disincentivizing ourselves. And I think that we're also being really mean to ourselves when we think that that has to be the truth. That's just not true. It's not true. And why would coaching and healing be the only industry in the world that doesn't allow for multiple streams of income? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm wondering if we could collectively get over ourselves a little bit and give ourselves credit for being the talented coaches and healers that we are, even if we have another income stream that is different from coaching and healing. I think that's really important. And that's going to go a long way towards letting you step into the identity that you desire as a coach, a healer, a facilitator, a therapist, whatever it is. Or maybe you just want to step into the identity of, I am out there living my life in the best way possible, and I'm just sharing the light in the way that feels good to me, and it's not connected to my official work in any capacity. Hey, you still get credit for that. So I promised you we were going to talk about some ways that we can do this. So we've talked about how you can use clothing to help yourself step into an identity. We've talked about some of the ways that we might hold ourselves back from stepping into a specific identity based on giving ourselves credit. But now let's talk about a couple of other things. One of the things that can keep us stuck is when we have any kind of inner work that needs to be done. There are two things that we talk about in somatic work. I am an IFS trained somatic coach. IFS stands for Internal Family Systems, and Internal Family Systems is a therapeutic model that was founded by Dick Schwartz. I am not a therapist, and I don't use this work therapeutically, and yet I have been trained in IFS to be able to use it in my somatic coaching. So there are two terms I want to bring to your awareness. One is child parts, and the other is protector parts. So, anytime that you have ever said in your life, there's a part of me that, and then you filled in the blank. Well, this work, this body of work by Dick Schwartz says, when you get ready to say, there's a part of me that really is a part. A child part or a protector part. What's the difference? Well, child parts are tender parts that are vulnerable aspects of ourselves, and they carry deeply emotional experiences. Child part is actually a little bit of a misnomer because you don't have to be a child to form a child part. I have worked with many clients who have like a 45-year-old part or a 55-year-old part. It can be a child. In fact, most of us have a whole preschool down there, but it's not necessarily a child. What happens is these parts get frozen in time during moments that you either don't have resources or support, and in ways that override your nervous system's capacity to cope with what's happening because it's too much, too fast. And so we don't have the safety or availability to process big emotions, and we end up with unmet needs. And our child parts hold core wounds, core desires, and unmet longings. And these are not broken parts of us. They are not wrong parts of us. And the goal is not to eliminate the child parts. The goal is to integrate the child parts so that we can work with them and give them the love that they need to be able to actually meet those needs. So our child parts are these sensitive, sacred little messengers showing us where love and attention and care is still needed. And when we meet the needs of our child parts, healing happens. And then we can reparent these child parts, meeting them with compassion, curiosity, and connection. And so that's one aspect of working with identity is we may have child parts that are in control that are blocking us. And this is one of those cases where you may not be able to see the label from inside the jar. Most of the time, until I started doing this work, I had no idea that I was operating from a child part. And I just knew that, in fact, what I would say is, every time I'm with my family, it's like I turned 13 again because there was literally a child part, a 13-year-old child part that was driving the boat, that was making decisions. And that was the person, the identity from whom I was speaking, was the 13-year-old part in me that had unmet needs. And when I gave that part over time, and it really does take some time, over time, I gave that part what she needed. All of a sudden, she's integrated with me. I know that she's still in there. And if I get a specific kind of trigger, I'll definitely feel her in the sense of it feels like a petulant teenager coming to the forefront, but I know how to work with her. And that's what happens when we work with child parts. So protector parts are just a little bit different. Our protector parts are maladaptive, oh, I almost couldn't say that, maladaptive strategies that we developed to stay safe and help us avoid pain. They literally protect us. They often form in response to the wounding of child parts. So they're not the same as child parts, but they can be connected to child parts. Their job, our protector parts job, is to keep us from feeling pain again. So our protector parts oftentimes form specific roles. They'll come in as the manager or the firefighter or the controller. And so if you find yourself in a specific pattern where there's like a role that you're playing, there might be a protector part there. These parts are brilliant. They are resourceful. They are very, very smart. They're misunderstood often as self-sabotage, but in truth, they're actually showing up for us to protect us from pain. They just don't know that we're actually safe. And so our work is when we work with protector parts, we don't want to banish them or have them go away. We want to thank them and then help them meet their needs so they feel safe enough to be able to let us be the ones making the decisions. So we just want to thank them and help them relax so that our deeper truth, our higher selves can lead. So your child parts are not weak. They're actually wise. They're parts of you that didn't stop believing in love, belonging, or joy, even when life got hard, but they also have these unmet needs. Your protector parts, they're fierce, and they've been running the show to keep you safe, successful, and out of pain. But oftentimes they're exhausted and they're so ready to rest. And the work that we do in somatic sessions helps you meet both so that we work with child parts and protector parts. And this can be one of the big things that can come up for us when it comes to identity. Because if we have a protector part or a child part that is really triggered and is dominating our thoughts and our actions, it can influence our identity. It can influence our ability to show up as the fully evolved version of ourselves. And so I just want to name that this might be part of it. So if you have been working towards something, you've gotten the degrees, the certifications, you're doing the work, and you're still not able to fully execute, my guess would be, and this is a very well-educated, well-experienced guess, that you have some child parts and protector parts that are trying to keep you safe. They're trying to keep you safe from stepping into the identity that you want because, as we've talked about in previous episodes, your nervous system perceives any change as potential threat. And so when it comes to identity work, you may need support working with child parts and protector parts. This is something that we can do in one-on-one sessions. I don't accept very many one-on-one clients at a time, but I do accept a few, and applications are now open. You can go check that out at brendawinkle.com/coaching. But this is also work that we do inside some of the other containers that I offer. Most specifically, we are going to be diving into this work at the Intuitive Leader Retreat. And that is March 3rd through 5th, 2026 in Lincoln City, Oregon. But before we talk about the retreat, let's come back to identity. So we've talked about shifting the external appearance so that it matches your identity. And by the way, This is why Halloween can feel so thrilling. If you wear a costume that has like a different identity, you can try it on and see how it feels. That's also why certain costumes are so repelling and you don't want to wear them because they don't match your identity. So we've talked about the external, we've talked about how your role may be affecting your new identity, and we've talked about child parts and protector parts. And those are all aspects of identity. And this last piece of identity work that I want to bring to you is going to be sort of like the cherry on top. You can do this independently and it will have an impact. It really will have an impact and it'll work very, very well if you combine it with everything we've talked about. And that is this: pay attention to where your spotlight is shining. And here's what I mean. If your spotlight is shining out, excuse me, let me try that again. If your spotlight is shining in toward yourself, you're asking yourself questions like, what will they think? Will anyone like this? What will they say? Will I still earn their respect if I do this? What will they think if I call myself this? What will people say if I step into this role? If your light is shining inward, it is very difficult for you to step into that new identity. It's really difficult. It might even be impossible because you will get into a loop of negative self-talk and it will collapse any attempt that you make to step into a new identity because it's too much to hold. Worrying about what the world will think and say, it's exhausting. Now, if you imagine turning that spotlight out. So now instead of shining on you, it's shining out. And then you begin to ask yourself different questions. And the questions sound more like, what is it that the people I care about most need from me? What is it that the people I serve wish that I was offering? How can I help? Those kinds of questions with the spotlight out, those are going to let you step into that new identity so much more easily because they're not self-focused. They're focused on your mission, on your service, on the purpose, on the thing that lights you up, on that thing you think about all the time. So, one of the really interesting shifts that you can make is when you notice yourself in a thought loop of what will they think? What will they say if I put this after my name, if I call myself this, if I step into this? Remember, that's the spotlight shining on you. Turn it out so that it shines on others. And how can you serve? What needs are not being met that you could fill? And I promise you, it feels completely different. And if you would like some support, the Intuitive Leader Retreat is a 3-day embodied experience for spiritual entrepreneurs, creatives, and intuitive professionals. And if you're ready to be done forcing yourself, like working against your child parts, your protector parts, the identity stuff, and you're really ready to lead, to share, and to get paid from a regular self-led place, this retreat is for you. You see, you don't really need another strategy. I mean, strategy matters, but not as much as internal stability, as feeling safe to be you. And chances are you already know what you want to do, or you're honing in on it anyway. You're not missing intelligence or skill or desire, but you don't have a sense of internal safety that is required to let you move forward without overriding yourself. And when this happens as a high capacity intuitive person, sometimes you'll get stuck. And you're not getting stuck because you lack ideas. You'll get stuck because your nervous system learned, which, by the way, this is a very highly intelligent part of you. Your nervous system learned to prioritize your safety over your self-expression. So this can look like overthinking decisions that should feel really simple. Now, I have to admit, you may notice a sound change right now because as I was recording, my recording shut off. So here I am. So we were just talking about what it might look like if you're overthinking, if you're starting and stopping. Sometimes it looks like over consuming, like registering for every summit, webinar, workshop. And one of the things that can happen is you'll just get consumption overwhelm where you actually don't know what to do simply because you've consumed so much information that it's so many different decisions to make. But this is what happens when your nervous system is activated and you're in an active stress response. Sometimes it comes up for us as though we wait until we're completely exhausted. We wait until we're exhausted, and then that exhaustion kind of forces a change. I've been there too. A lot of times, this causes a feeling of disconnection where what should be a simple decision is not. It feels overwhelming and it feels high stakes, much more high stakes than it should. This is a nervous system activation. Your nervous system is indicating signs of stress. So, the real shift isn't doing more, it's not more strategy, it's deciding from a regulated place. And that means that we come back to this place of internal safety where we're tending to our needs, we're meeting and being present with our protector parts, our child parts, that felt sense where you can trust yourself. You listen to your body and you can make that choice without pressure. So, this retreat is not for everyone. It is an investment, and there are only 10 spots total available. Two have been spoken for. And so there's 8 spots remaining, and you can learn more and register at brendawinkle.com/2026. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast for several months, you will see that this actual retreat has gone through many different identity shifts. And the identity shifts of the retreat are not because I lack decisiveness, but it's because the more questions I ask you, the more I'm realizing the identity of the retreat needed to shift in order to meet your needs. So again, when I turned my spotlight from on myself out to you, the retreat identity needed to shift because that was how it was going to meet your needs. So this retreat is not a place to start. This is for people like us that already sense that what we need is deeper embodiment, deeper healing, to live our lives fully without distractions, urgency, or pressure. Because the truth is, you didn't come here to figure out who to be, you came here to stabilize who you already are. And that's what this retreat actually does. It's going to mirror that identity back to you. It's where inner regulation stabilizes your direction, and then you're met and mirrored back so that you can hold the frequency of the identity you are stepping into. And that creates a sense of internal safety. So there are some testimonials on that page. I invite you to go take a look at them, make sure it's a fit for you. We talk about who it's for, who it's not for on that same web page. And really, essentially, it's for you if you're a spiritual entrepreneur, creative, or intuitive professional, and you're tired of negotiating with yourself to move forward. You're tired of waiting for the identity shift to really happen, and you want to collapse time to do it. Now, if you're not sure that a retreat is for you, you're not sure that that kind of investment feels aligned for you, then I've got 2 other things you can consider right now. One is to join the Spiritual CEO membership, which is hosted on School. I'll put the link in the show notes. And this is the place for people who want to be the CEO of their lives and businesses. And there is definitely a spiritual flavor, not religious, spiritual. So we talk about all the things, empathy, being an empath, intuitiveness. Is that a word? Intuitiveness? It is today. And the different ways that intuition can be activated. We talk about how business is different for people with the gifts of empathy and intuition, and how it shows up differently in our visibility, in our messaging, in our marketing, in our bodies, and even in the capacity that we have to build the business. And that comes in at a much lower price point. And if you still just want like a little taste test of what it's like to work with me and you're not ready for a big investment, then I invite you to go check out the Elixir. This is an on-demand set of 14 tools for emotional regulation. In other words, regulating your nervous system. So you can go test it out. And the cool thing is you don't have to wait for the next call. You don't have to adjust your schedule. It's literally 14 on-demand tools that are very short and really powerful. So each video is just 3 to 6 minutes. You can use it before or after work. You can use it in your office, in your living room, in your bedroom. You can use them with your children, with your students, even with your patients. So you can go grab that. I'll put the link in the show notes for the Elixir, and that's just a $77 one-time investment. And if you prefer just to stay here listening to the podcast, that's amazing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the podcast. I have to tell you that the name, Your Yes Filled Life, I have such fondness for the name. And I feel like the podcast's identity is shifting. And so I know I've kind of hinted around at that in a couple of episodes, and I'm just about ready to pull the trigger. So as soon as I have time to create that, I probably will. Probably will. Thank you for being here. Would you do something for me, please? Would you go to Apple Podcasts and leave the show a rating and review? It's really important for you to go to Apple because, as much as I appreciate the reviews, or excuse me, the ratings and the comments on Spotify, and I really do appreciate them, I'm very grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. In order for a show to rank as a podcast, it needs to have an Apple ranking. And in order to do that, we need some reviews. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the podcast, invitation to go do that because there's some really cool stuff coming up soon. Thank you so much for being here. Bye for now. Until next time.